Sir, very good afternoon to you. My question is, during the budget you announced that TELS scholarship rather, they would be reduced. And so with this announcement, I think so many students, particularly near 13, they were placed in a dilemma over the implication that this action would have on their future. So what does government have in place in trying to address this?
There are two issues. Please don't confuse TELS as a scholarship. You have the topper scholarship. The topper scholarship is where we pay for everything. And you don't have to pay us back. The only thing you have to do is to work in Fiji for a period of time. So for example, from memory, if you get a scholarship, say to do MBBS, because the cost of MBBS is quite high, you actually have to work in Fiji, I think, for 6 or 7 years. You don't even have to work for government, you can go into the private sector. Because it's taxpayers' money and fully funded, we want you to contribute to your country. And it's only available to Fijian citizens. Yep. So that's toppers. The other one is TELS. TELS stands for Tertiary Education Loan Scheme. That's the acronym for that, TELS. So yes, we have reduced the number of scholarships. We have reduced the number of the TELS positions available. And we've also said that the passing mark should be, from memory, 240 or 250. 250. Because we had a lot of people who were simply just getting 200 and were getting TELS. So if you are going to get your fees paid, whether by way of obviously toppers, by way of TELS, you actually should work hard for it. That's one of the rationale behind it. The reality of the matter is obviously we are tightening our belt. And you know, when I talk to you about tourism, when it contributes 40% towards our revenue, that money is no longer coming. The money is no longer coming into the country. We have, for example, reduced, the lady talked about alcohol, but there's so many other items that we've reduced the duty on. Toothbrush, food items, fruits, zero rated on things. Undergarments, zero rated. Clothes you buy, you need undergarments, right? All these things, everyday usage. All these things have been reduced. Notwithstanding the fact that our revenue has dried up. Please try and understand. When the tourists used to come before, it's not just tourism, it's also garments. We have about 6,000 to 8,000 predominantly women employed in the garment sector. And our garment industry supplies to Australia and New Zealand. When Auckland, when Sydney, when Melbourne and other parts of Australia and New Zealand are in lockdown, people aren't going to the shops and buying clothes. So guess what? The orders to Fiji is zero or reduced significantly. So those women who are working 5 days a week, some of them are working 1 day a week. The money we used to earn by the export of those garments has stopped. We have a garment factory in Suva that specializes in making rugby jerseys throughout the world. If there's a quarter final, they have a different jersey, right? Semi-final, different jersey. They used to make that very quickly, put it on the plane, fly to UK, fly to other parts of the world. There's no sporting events taking place. Now it's happening in some parts of the world, but without any spectators. We are lucky we've got spectators here. The rugby matches, the Skipper Cup, Fair Brother Challenge, this one here, the Battle of Giants. If you watch sports now, overseas sports, you'll hear the sound, but there's nobody sitting there. So even the spectators aren't buying those jerseys. So it's dried up. So our revenue is reduced. There's no tourists coming in. They're not paying STT, they're not paying VAT, they're not paying ECAL, they're not bringing the foreign exchange. So government's revenue has dried up significantly. But we still have to continue with government services. You still need water in your taps, you still need electricity, we still have to build roads. So as a result of which we're tightening, I mean with the civil servants. The civil servants, they have not had a pay cut. The teachers are lucky, all of them, they haven't had a pay cut. But we've done other things. Where a civil servant used to get a meal allowance, each meal allowance they get $20. Now they're getting $10. Teachers who used to get posted to maritime areas and deep rural areas used to get a, what do you call a, like a allowance, extra allowance on top of their salary. We've stopped that. There are a lot of things we've stopped, just so we can control our expenditure. So in the same way, so for example, if tourism opens up tomorrow, we can go back to what we had because we have the revenue for it. So we reduce that as a result of it. So there are some people who can actually afford it. And as you know, that we do not discriminate. There are some students whose parents are quite wealthy, but they still went and took TELS. They can afford it, but they still took TELS. So we've put in place these measures as an interim measure. We used to, we made a policy about 2 years ago where every time a person, a mother giving birth, who earns less than $30,000 a year, giving birth to a child, we give them $1,000. So they get $500 up front. You have to open a bank account, $500 up front, where they can immediately use that $500 to, buy the diapers and what have you. And the other $500, you have to open the account in the name of the child, was kept there, and you can access that when the child goes to year one. You pay for the primary school expenditure. Why have we allowed that? So we can inculcate a culture of savings. Because when the baby turns 1, turns 2, some relative gives money, said, hey, why don't you put the money in the account? So those are the things, but we put that on hold too. Last year we paid $16 million, lots of babies. We have a young population. 40% of our population, 70% of our population is below the age of 40. 70%, you are part of it. Now, we've had some problems too. We had one lady with the same baby, went to bar, claimed $1,000. Jumped in a cab, came to Lautoka, same baby, same mother, claimed $1,000. Jumped in a cab, went to Nandi, same baby, same mother, claimed another $1,000. $3,000. Some abuse was going on too. So, it gives us an opportunity for this 1 year whilst we put it on suspension to be able to look at how we can tighten up those areas. This is why we're investing quite a lot of money in digital Fiji. But that's the reason for it, because we have to tighten up the belts.